as everyone knows, we like to call South Africa Retardistan, and this story is a quintessential story from the country of Retardistan, where you have a government who has imposed race quotas all over the place, who has to defend itself because it appointed white people to represent its interests in a case involving racism. It sounds very complicated, and it is, but fundamentally, it is retarded.
Yeah, so this actually gets the specifics out the way so we know more or less what's happened. So this is a scaffolding company that hasn't met BEE targets, and the relevant government bullshit department of equality or race relations or, I don't know, just hating the whiteys, they've basically taken the scaffolding company to court. And to do that, they've appointed a state attorney. Well, it turns out the attorney that they've appointed is, well, white, and his counsel team is white. And so I'm not sure what I think of the judge in this case, but what he has actually done is he's come out and basically said, you're acting for the Department of Race Baiting, and you want to have a Barney with the scaffolding company for not having enough blacks. But how come there's no blacks in your council? Because you're the ones representing the race baiting. And in Retardistan, we don't seem to understand the inherent irony of that, where the state is defending race baiting, and then when it doesn't have the relevant blacks itself, it says, yeah, but race has nothing to do with it. The ironies and the jokes write themselves. This is quintessentially Retardistan 101.
Absolutely so, especially when the state says, well, we don't care about the racial makeup of the people we hire, we just worry about their capabilities. Yeah, only in this case, but not in every other case, like, appointing people to mayorships or appointing people in the deep state or appointing civil servants in, I don't know, ESCOM. Like, their race matters everywhere. Like, the reason why this matters is because the ANC has placed such a high emphasis on race to the detriment of everything else, like competence, meritocracy, and all the rest of it. That has made South Africa Retardistan. So it is very strange for that very same state which created Retardistan due to its race-based policies is now saying, well, actually, in this court case, it's all about merit, and therefore race has no part to play whatsoever. If race had no part to play whatsoever, this entire case would not happen, because then we wouldn't have BEE for this to be a case. But here we are.
So just to be very exact with you, ladies and gentlemen, what actually happened is the judge said, come back to me and tell me why you don't have any African counsel. And they said, no. So he said, okay, write me a letter and tell me why you don't have any African counsel. And so the actual state's attorneys that have no African counsel basically wrote a response back going, we don't need African counsel because what we need is people that understand the merits of the case and they can actually progress the case based on meritocracy. And the judges, the actual state attorneys that we have, the state council, are the most qualified and experienced that there is. There's 15 years experience. The next guy has like 9 years experience, and this guy's never lost a case. And so why would they need African counsel when they need the best, most meticulous person for the job? And they still don't understand the irony of the case, in that you are representing the Department of Race Baiting to say that the scaffolding company doesn't have enough blacks, which is a quota, and you yourself say we are not going to follow a quota because we want meritocracy, we want the best people for the job. They don't seem to be smart enough, because they're retarded, to understand the grand irony. There should be no race baiting at all. There should be no BE. It should be based on meritocracy. But these guys are like, meritocracy for thee, but not for thee, not for you, but for us. Yeah. Like, it's retarded. Their entire case, they are saying that this matter has nothing to do with the judge. And yet, Ramon, it has everything to do with the case and everything to do with the judge, because any cases or any things that they now argue about not having the relevant bean countering is just obsolete, mate. It's obsolete. Everything they have to say now is pointless, because they themselves have said, well, we don't have bean countering because we just want the best man for the job. Well, why doesn't that apply to the scaffolding company? Why are they not smart enough to understand this?
But again, like the sort of racism of the ANC has permeated the minds of purportedly smart people like senior counsel, like lecturers of law, like judges. It's just poisoned absolutely everything. And the premium on the civilization factor of South Africa is really, really high and at risk of not ever becoming a civilization, because racial bean counting is what happens here. That's it. It's the detriment of everything else. And the detriment of everything else is people, shitting on the streets and littering and not having railways and not having electricity. As long as you're counting races, this will just continue to happen.
Yeah, but the thing that you neglect to say here, Ramon, is that the reason that the senior counsellor said, yeah, okay, well, we support transformation is because remember he works for the state. And he doesn't want to be classed as being anti-transformational because then that's his career gone. So he feels the need to say, oh, yeah, but I support the transformation. Diversity is our strength, even though it's not. And in this instance, like the transformation that he should be talking about should be transformation based on meritocracy, should be transformation based on the number of years' experience. But the problem with meritocracy and the number of years' experience is it takes a long time to gain. And South Africa doesn't want to do this on a slow, gradual basis to build up the skill and the expertise in order to take over these things. They just want to transform it today because today is a good political point scoring. So he feels the need to add that in because, like, it's a political point. Oh, I like transformation, just not for me. I don't want to be transformed. And you know what, Ramon? We see this time and time again, and it's actually getting boring now. The amount of individuals in the state that continue to bitch about shit and then go straight on to basically defend the very shit they bitch about. And we saw this again today in the Malema case of hate speech. I'm not going to go over the case, but again, here we have another University of Johannesburg political scientist, Stephen Friedman, who then turned around and said, well, I'm all for freedom of speech. And Malema calling for the death of white people, that's not hate speech. But, I am white and I'd prefer him not to kill me. Like, what the fuck is wrong with these people, mate? Like, I just wish I knew. There's retarded and then there's these fuckers. Like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Unfortunately, I mean, if we were sort of very far right white supremacists, we'll call these people race traitors, right? But we're not white supremacists. We're not going to call them race traitors. But it's very odd to work in areas and speak about things that detriment you and sort of your race. Not that white people are homogenous by any means, but it's like Jews going to the Nuremberg trials and defending Albert Speer. It's like, no, but it wasn't really that bad. There weren't that many people during the Holocaust. Did it really? It doesn't make sense. You are causing harm to your own people by being like this. But in for the sake of expedience, for the grift, for, I don't know, maybe the mania of transformania in the heads of these whites, they're like, yeah, this is like, we need to erase ourselves from South Africa because that's the only way the country will heal. I don't understand. Is it Stockholm Syndrome? Is it retardation? Is it just grifting? Maybe it's a combination of all three, to be honest.
Yeah, but again, coming back to the main story, top of the hour, is obviously this stupid dumbass scaffolding case and the dumbass state attorneys who are like, yeah, but, meritocracy, but we like transformation. Dude, if you like transformation so much, recruit yourself from the case, resign from government, go live on a farm somewhere that you're going to hand to the state so that they can give it through to another person so they can be transformed, and just go live in a shack. Because then you can firmly stand up in front of us and say, I like transformation. It's exactly what we deserve. Until then, sit down, shut up, and stop talking shit.